fifth principle, alignment and weight bearing of the upper and lower extremities, is one of my favorite because the word alignment in itself is probably one of the most important and beneficial words that can improve and enhance the quality of our life. Alignment could be something as simple as one day I was out water skiing with some friends of mine, and I was out there thinking that I was all that, skiing and laying it down, thinking that I was shooting up this big spray of water because my reference to them was watching them ski, and they were much better skiers than I was. And one day my friend John White said, "Hey Brent, you really suck at water skiing." And of course my ego didn't allow me to believe that, and he brought out a video camera. And soon after skiing, even while I was taking my Conley high wrap slalom ski off my ankles, I was still thinking that I was all that. And John had this smile on his face as he showed me the video, and sure enough, I looked something more like this, where I was shaking, and it's like a real quick release both sides, and I realized that I was not aligned. And when I mean aligned, it was that my perception of my movement was nowhere close to the reality of my movement. As Pilates teachers, our job is to help to align people, to help them to be able to take whatever the deviation from reality and start bringing it closer to that alignment. One more story I like to share is in the Hawaiian Islands. Maybe you've heard of the Great Kahuna. Well, the Kahuna was the shaman of Hunism, or the Polynesian Islands spiritual belief. And the Kahuna's job was to align the subconscious spirit with the conscious spirit. And they believed in the Hawaiian Islands that when the conscious and subconscious spirit were aligned, that the individual would then be in line with the Great Spirit, or with the universe. And so typically they'd work with the warriors to be able to get them aligned to protect the people in the islands. Well, I thought, what a beautiful image. And what we do often in Pilates is we help people align their conscious and their subconscious, their perception with their reality. So alignment is preparatory for self-fulfillment, as somebody like Maslow might talk about in the hierarchy of the human needs. Before self-actualization, we need to be aligned. And this is why over and over and over again, what we do as Pilates teachers is much more than just an exercise. When people experience physical alignment of their body, they experience mental and spiritual alignment as well. They are inseparable. Even if you don't believe in it, the people will experience it. And you'll hear things like, "I can't believe how happy I am when I'm doing Pilates. I can't believe how much clearer my head is when I do Pilates before I go to work." And we hear these type of testimonials over and over and over again. Now it makes sense when we start studying the body and understanding that when our body is aligned, the organs and the nervous system and the lymphatic system and the fluid and the oxygenation of all of our tissues is better. And when our systems function better, our mind is clear, and we tend to think better, we tend to perform better at work, we tend to be happier, we tend to be kinder, we tend to see things more beautifully in the world. So alignment is everything. So we're going to move on and talk a little bit about the anatomy of our physical body as it pertains to alignment. And before I do that, I love to share this quote by Eric Franklin. He talks about ideal alignment. Now this is really important because he says, this involves all the body parts approximating towards the central axis as much as structure permits. The beauty of Eric's phrase there is as much as structure permits. This means that some of my patients who maybe are paralyzed from waist down can still have an optimal alignment or ideal alignment for themselves. Or a patient of mine that has a scoliosis. As long as they're drawing the structure towards the central axis, their body parts to that central axis, as much as structure permits, they will experience their ideal alignment. I love that way of thinking about things because it allows everybody to maximize their performance. We're not looking per se at an old Kindle and Kindle chart of saying, this is what perfect posture is, this is what you have to look like, rather than what do you feel like? How do we get your body to perform at its best capabilities? Now when we look at the slide of the anatomy of the lower extremity, we basically break it down into a number of parts. The pelvis is the weight bearing of the whole body. So all the body comes down this pelvis, and it's like a shell or a bowl that holds the weight of and contents of our viscera. It connects to the spine that holds our upper body and our head, our neck, our shoulders, our arms. And it balances, and I use this word carefully, it balances on top of the femoral head. And the muscles work around this area to be able to maintain the efficiency of balance. It really is quite a miracle to imagine that our body can stand up on two small limbs or a small space for our feet and balance against gravity with such a long lever. If you've ever tried to build things with toothpicks or sticks and have them stand up like that, you have to typically bring things from the outside in to hold them up or to wedge them up. And our body works from the inside out. So the relationship between the pelvis on top of the femoral head becomes incredibly important. Now, the femur that's connected or balances underneath the pelvic floor comes down at an angle, and it has a very unique biomechanical property in the condyles. The inside condyle, or the medial condyle, is larger than the lateral condyle, and they balance on top of the tibia, the main weight-bearing bone in the lower leg. And this relationship of one condyle being bigger than the other creates a spiral. And that spiral creates a certain amount of tension in the fascia of our body. So when we're standing and moving, it actually has this beautiful balancing relationship between the pelvis and the upper body to be able to allow us to be upright animals. And I remind you that we're the only upright animal that has a bicurved spine. Even our cousins, the chimpanzees, have what's called a C-curved spine. So we really have this unique property to allow us to balance upright and have great dexterity with our hands because of the balance through the lower extremity. Now, it doesn't stop there because the tibia comes down and with the fibula articulate with the ankle or the talus. And that relationship there has this distribution through our foot, which is another lever that's in front of our body. So if you think about it, the ideal position of our balance would be leaning a little bit into those feet because they create a lever that can help hold us up, or a fulcrum that helps hold us up against gravity. So very unique properties on how our body balances from the pelvis to the femur, through the knee into the tibia and fibula, into the talus, and the talus distributing through the foot. Now let's start looking at the actual foot anatomy. I love to look at the foot and break it into its pieces. I want to use the actual skeleton to show you some of the unique features of the foot and how the foot distributes force. We often think of the foot as being divided into two parts of the foot. We have the lateral foot, which is the fourth and fifth metatarsal, and it comes down into the cuboid, and the cuboid into the calcaneus. And it's going to move in what we call eversion, inversion. The medial foot consists of the first, second, and third metatarsal, and it comes into the cuneiform, the navicular, and the talus. And so that movement is what we refer to as pronation and supination. So when I am weight-bearing and standing on my foot, the foot actually spreads out and splays to be able to give us balance, to absorb the unevenness of the ground. As I start to move through space and go onto my toes, the foot actually stiffens up and goes into supination and a little bit of inversion. So that's a very unique biomechanical property in this foot that we'll talk a little bit more about later. But just be able to see how the foot itself goes into the pronation, supination, and inversion, eversion with the medial and lateral foot. Okay? Let's keep that in mind as we go through the lecture and remember the bones.